Well, hello, race fans. Welcome to a new edition of our EKN Debrief show, episode number 96. My name's Rob Howden. We'll be joined, as always, by David Cole. It is Wednesday, June the 13th, or June 15th, rather, and the event that we'll be talking about today on this edition of the Debrief, the 2022 Superkarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals. The event, the midway point of the Pro Tour, taking place last weekend at Utah Motorsports Campus in Erda, Utah. Today's show brought to you by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. Head to www.shopakr.com. David Cole, you've flown home from Utah out of Salt Lake City back to Grand Rapids. Another edition, the 13th edition, I guess. Yeah, the 13th edition. No, the 12th edition of the Spring Nationals.
Yeah, officially the 12th. Yes.
Officially the 12th, because, of course, we had the entire Pro Tour in the year of COVID at Newcastle Motorsports Park in the Summer Festival. So, yeah, officially the 12th edition of the Spring Nationals at Utah Motorsports Campus. All in all, again, as I said at the top of the show, rounds 3 and 4 of a 6-round championship, halfway point of the season with the best 5 counting. I watched from afar. I was at Road America, followed everything on social media, watched session by session, seeing who was doing well. A lot of great upsets, a lot of great guys coming to the forefront, which I thought was exciting. But all in all, a bit of a tumultuous weekend, I think, all told.
Well, let's begin with the weather, because the weather didn't help any. It really felt like it was July with the amount of, obviously, the sun, not a lot of cloud coverage at all. So the temperatures were in the 90s all 3 days.
Wow.
And so made for, an extremely hot weekend for all of those involved. And, and then add in high winds Sunday afternoon during the main events, just added to the little bit of chaos that we did have there in Utah.
A lot of great storylines from what I saw. Drivers scoring their first ever Pro Tour wins, a bunch of drivers doubling up as well, which I thought was interesting. You really get that momentum midway through the season, heading to the Summer Nationals at the end of July. Let's look at the numbers first, as we always do. Jump into by the numbers. Last year, the Spring Nationals drawing 221 entries. This year, 204. We kind of went over it a little bit, did we not, in the outlap, where there's just been a drop in master shifters. There was a complete drop, really. You really can just look at the masters classes for the overall drop, but it was a drop completely in X30 master as well, going from 9 last year to 0 going in. I think did you have 1 or 2 entries this weekend, and it ended up being so I gave you the wrong number. So actually we had 218 total. All right.
Overall, yeah, I did not update the script from our
good job, David. But, set me up for failure.
I did, but yeah. So to kind of quick go over.
So 218 is a good amount of walk up then, right? Because we were
a good amount of walk up. We had 14 walk ups, so that was a positive in the right direction. Again, only the what I say, only the second time that we've been in the 200s, dating back to 2017 when we had a massive amount of numbers at Sonoma. That year. So, 18 and 19 were both below the 200 marks. And now, the last 2 years in Utah, we've been at 221 and 218 now. So, and that's not counting, big numbers in the Masters divisions, where we had 2 walk-ups in the X30 Master class. And then we had a total of 3 in Master Shifter, because 2 of the drivers originally scheduled moved over to Pro Shifter instead.
Okay. All right, then. Obviously, to see the numbers we saw in 18 and 19 at PKRA, and then again Sonoma back in 2017. Good to see the numbers back. Again, as we said in the outlap, over 200, right? When you're over 200, that's a really good mark. Any organization is going to be happy with 200. Obviously, one of the bright spots, David, were the KA 100 classes. A little bit down from last year for KA 100 senior, but man, up in junior from last year, a total of 36 in both categories, 72 drivers all total running the KA 100.
Yeah, 39 we got in KA 100 junior. So we had 3 walk-ups in that category. So 10 more than what we had last year. But as you said, we're down 12 in the KA 100 senior division. So, again, kind of a wash in terms of entry totals for that category, but those two categories, but still 75 drivers in those two divisions.
As we look at it, what are your thoughts on the pro shifter category? What was the final total for pro shifter?
So final total, we got up to 25. So that's 12 more than what we had last year, which big. Was, and again, it's kind of the ebb and flow of our sport. We have, some categories doing well, some categories that are going down, but, we have youth movements once in a while. So we see good numbers, and we have been the last couple of years in our cadet division. So, and then you obviously have, drivers who stay back in junior or some that graduate. So there's always the ebb and flow of the sport.
True.
But certainly I think since opening up the shifter categories to, KZ and the IME 175 power plant has allowed, the competitors to do what they want to do. If they want to go and spend the money on the KZ engines, they're allowed to go do that. And I think that's kind of brought the resurgence back into it, because this is what the racers wanted. So it's good to have that. And again, 25 drivers in pro shifter, phenomenal for the SpringNationals.
Yeah, I got to say that's a huge highlight for Superkarts USA. I think we saw a bit of it last year at the SuperNationals. And again, as you said, the opening up to allow KZ, and a number of people have jumped in and said, this is what we want to do. The competitors have spoken, and there's more and more KZs. And I would expect that we're going to start seeing some momentum moving back in that direction, as we are seeing a lot of, KZ and shifter participation, even on, a lot of it on the East Coast as well. So 218 entries, David, correcting the script, 218 entries on the weekend for the SpringNationals. We'll dive into it, of course. We'll jump into the paddock pass after this quick break. Then after that, of course, going class by class through all the categories who were racing out in Utah. Don't go anywhere. Paddock pass after this break. Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer to winning in karting. At the helm is industry veteran Greg Bell, who has orchestrated the success of many drivers dating back to the mid-1990s. Based in Lodi, California, Leading Edge Motorsports is the Western importer with IP karting that includes the Praga and Formula K chassis brands. Leading Edge Motorsports provides in-depth driver development for those racers in Northern California and across the country. Arrive and drive services, kart preparation, and driver coaching are available under the LEM tent throughout the season. Bell's record of working with drivers includes recent victories at North America's biggest karting events, including the Rock the Rio and the SCUSA SuperNationals. Greg Bell's knowledge for building engines spans 2 decades and is now under the Mega Power branding, providing a reliable engine service and tuning knowledge. No matter the chassis brand, choose Mega Power to get to the front. Click over to leadingedgemotorsports.com for more and find them on social media to stay connected. At Leading Edge Motorsports, winning never gets old. Need race fuel or oil? Hyperfuels is an authorized distributor for several of the brands that are spec fluids in American karting, including ELF and Aspen Sport. They also stock and ship methanol. Hyperfuels has a web store that can take your orders 24/7, and they ship UPS. That's right, Hyperfuels can ship fuel and oil right to your door. Whether you need ELF Racing Fuels or ELF ATX 909 oil, or Aspen Sport 98 octane fuel for SCUSA competition, they have it in stock. When you need it now, go to hyperfuels.com. Welcome back to episode number 96 of the EKN Debrief, our race report podcast that caps off our EKN Trackside Live coverage. Into the paddock pass right now, where we talk about stuff that didn't really happen on the racetrack, more paddock-wise and overall sport itself. This edition of the Paddock Pass is brought to you by Trinity Karting Group. Trinity Karting Group is your first step on the ladder to racing success. Based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, they literally have a track in their backyard and a controlled environment to develop your skills. Trinity Karting Group flattens out the steep learning curve with a professional staff that will put you on the right path. The focus is driver development, and they compete at the local, regional, and national levels, including the SCUSA Pro Tour and the United States Pro Kart Series. They have new and used packages available, and they are your Midwest source for Kart Republic chassis and IME engines. Visit them at teamtkg.com or call 513-421-4463. All right, DC, into the paddock pass right now. I know we touched on a lot of stuff going on in the outlap, kind of previewing the event last week. Obviously, some of the biggest news we've had over the last couple of weeks was two really big names in the national level to sport moving teams, primarily Hunter Pickett and Jeremy Fletcher.
Yeah, we got to see them make their debuts with their new teams. Hunter Pickett moving over to PSL karting on the Burrell Art chassis. And Jeremy Fletcher, a senior rookie in the X30 senior and K100 senior divisions, staying with the OTK product, but moving over underneath the Ryan Perry Motorsport tent. So we got to see those two combinations working together for the first time. We also saw Hannah Greenmeyer moving over to Pro Shifter, still under the Rollison Performance Group tent, but making her Pro Shifter debut on the weekend. And also, Clayman DeMello making his X30 senior debut with Paralyn USA with Alessandro Dutulio there as a driver coach for a lot of the younger kids, but also Zachary working as a driver coach and racing as well in the X30 senior division, working with the young drivers under the Paralyn USA tent.
Nice. I like to see that. Now, obviously, some interesting moves. We talked about it in the outlap. Just guys going to different colors, trying up a different team, a little different culture. All told, the drivers doing pretty good with their new teams. We'll get into that, of course, once we do the race report. But those drivers had pretty good weekends. David, when we were there in 2021 for the Spring Nationals, a number of drivers stayed over. Superkarts USA was at the track in Utah afterwards. We were all said and done because they were doing some testing for the Aspen fuels. And this was actually the first Pro Tour event at Utah for Aspen since having done those tests last year.
It was. And, so that's, it's something that's been a story all season long, obviously, is the engine builders and competitors adjusting to the way the Aspen fuels and the ELF oils, react to one another and how the performance of the engines, are in the short term and long term. But obviously, I think it's a little bit more important in Utah because the elevation, we're up there in the Rocky Mountains, and you go from Saturday to Sunday, the air quality was crap one of the days. So obviously it kept a lot of the engine tuners and obviously mechanics, figuring out, the best way to get the best power out of their power plants, be it, the Swift engine, the KAs or the X30s, or even the Pro Shifter divisions as well, too. So again, Aspen was there, obviously, as the presenting sponsor for the weekend, had their Green for Green program, worked with the Pro Shifter division. So they added another $6,000 in prize money for the Pro Shifter category for the weekend total. And so again, Aspen is all in with the SCUSA Pro Tour and Superkarts USA.
Yeah, cool to see them giving back as well. I love that. I love that, that injection of cash and support for the Pro Shifter class. David, obviously we got the script. I'm kind of going through. You got some notes down here, and I'm intrigued by this. First time I think I've seen you put this down in terms of some of your feedback and input from the weekend, but you want to talk about tire degradation a little bit. Well, give me the scoop on why that was potentially a talking point throughout the weekend.
Well, it was a talking point because really the tires went away after one or two laps. And that's something that obviously was prevalent in Pro Shifter category where, the grip level, the tires are softer and the grip level goes away quicker. But it was really a factor in all the different categories. X30 senior, again, qualify within 2 or 3 laps and you pull off to kind of save the lifespan of the tire. And so that's something that the Utah Motorsports campus circuit is a little bit different than other racetracks. I know we see other racetracks where maybe by the end of the main event, you could maybe put down a lap within, 3/10 of your qualifying effort. Where here, we're talking almost a second and a half from qualifying time to your quick time in the main event. So that was the biggest, especially in the Pro Shifter category where you're, 1.4 seconds difference. But I didn't realize that X30 senior until I started looking at the numbers. It was the same in the X30 senior division as well, too, with still the same softer Evinco tire.
How are the temperatures from the morning qualifying through to the afternoon? Was by the time you went qualifying in the morning, was it pretty warm?
Qualifying in the morning. So we started about 9 o'clock local time. It was still somewhat comfortable. Nothing, too drastic. I would say it was on the warm side. I want to say ambient temperature was still in the 70s,
Okay.
high 70s, maybe got into the lower 80s, maybe by the time qualifying was done, because you're getting to about 11:30.
Indeed.
But yeah, the track temperature, I think that was the key. I mean, it just kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And I didn't get the actual numbers, but you could just, with the ambient being in the 95-degree range, both by the end of the day. So you're talking X30 senior, end of the day, 95 degrees. It's just super hot, and the track obviously super hot as well too. So I don't think it's so much. I think it's more the temperature. But it's, you talk about like a track like Shawano, Wisconsin, the USA, or I can't remember the name, what they call it anymore. But
they call it USA International Raceway, but
yeah,
USA actually stands for USA International Raceway.
Well, it used to be called USA International Raceway.
Exactly. Now it's USA International Raceway.
Yes. That track, you could tell by the surface, it just eats up the tire. Where I don't think it's so much was eating up the tire in Utah. I think there's the heat and the way, the track conditions, where again, the sand doesn't help either. I think it makes it a little bit coarse with the sand, but
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But, or salt, I guess, because I went to the hotel every day filled with salt in my hair and my face. So,
man, all right.
not fun, but it was just an interesting thing. So yeah, 1.5 second was a drop off for X30 senior from qualifying to the fast lap in the main event. Pro shifter was 1.4 seconds from qualifying to the main event. And then K100 senior with a harder Evenco tire was only 1.2 seconds off. So again, a good amount of time you're losing per lap per session.
Yeah. So what else you got in terms of paddock pass stuff for us?
The one of the issues surrounding some of the disqualifications involved, basically involved mechanics and tuners and that, and team managers pointing out, I guess, irregularities on carts that were on track. Obviously a lot of the carts that go through your initial tech inspection or safety tech are done so early on in the weekend and aren't done again. I would assume they do occasional safety tech through actual post-race tech, whether it be qualifying, pre-final, or the main event. But so one of the items was seat struts not fastened to the cart. So seat struts are just sitting there attached to the chassis, but not attached to the seat. So they're flopping in open air, I guess is the term of looking at it. And it was pointed out by mechanics, and if officials saw, were made aware of it and had to institute some disqualifications because of it. So it looks like that, the competition is getting so heated that, some teams and some mechanics are going in this direction. I guess it's not necessarily tattletaling, in a sense, but it kind of feels that way if you know what I'm talking about.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, is really it's a seat strut. And that's the other thing too, is should this be a disqualification, or should this be, hey, you get a warning, don't do it again?
I've always done that too. Have you not done that yourself? I've always done that, where if you just kind of unbuckle it, right? So like undo it at the seat, so that it, instead of pulling the whole thing off. Maybe it's just because I've been thrashing through a club day or I didn't have time. And if you don't pull the whole thing off.
Rob, I don't race enough and I don't tune enough to know that that's an option. So really, to be honest, again, for me, if I have a seat strut, it's attached to the seat. It's why would it be on the cart if it's not? And I don't.
It's a quick adjustment, right? So let's say if you want to go without a seat strut, you just pull the top bolt out. The minute you pull the top bolt out,
bottoms. You can't do the bottom bolt at the same time.
Depending on how much you're thrashing in time wise, why, if you're going to put it right back on, why would you do it? And it's always weight too, right? You have to add the weight.
I literally saw somebody put in a bolt on the grid before the X30 senior main event because they made her aware that Tech is now looking at this. So
Oh, well, okay. All right.
it's
All right.
Again, it's almost like it's being lazy, both in the sense of not taking the seat strut off, but also in the sense of reporting it to Tech, like, hey, this guy doesn't have that done. It's so there's a lot of discussion that could be done around this. Again, the way it's handled by Tech, or
Hey, and rules are rules. If it's in the rule
and then
book,
and
right?
again, I agree.
Yeah.
If it's a rule, yeah, it's almost the Rick jump thing of go no go type scenario. But there should have, I guess by the main event time, it should be a penalty. But again, I almost think we need more detailed rule books in what is the penalty for this.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it's off there, but what's the actual associated penalty with it? I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is no different than having maybe something not wired.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, again, what's the reason? What's the reasoning behind the rule? Right? Is it
right.
because
is it a safety aspect?
If it's a safety deal and it's not performance enhancing, then maybe it's a different. Hey, you know what? It's a penalty of this way or that way, or a fine or whatever. Right? It's a little different.
Yeah, and that's the other way of looking. It could be $100 fine. It could be a loss of a session next time out, or there's other ways of looking. I think a race disqualification for something in this terms. It's another one was a titanium Nerf bars being utilized in Master Shifter. I know Michael Gualsh was the provisional winner, had it removed and then reinstated because I don't know if it's because the rule is poorly written. I wasn't able to get confirmation on why it was reinstated, but other than they gave him the weekend to run with them, but not why is there this different penalty for that situation to where the Nerf bar or the seat strut is a complete disqualification?
Yeah, interesting.
It's not adding up correctly in my point of view. So,
well, again, like you said, you have to have the matrix of this penalty is equates or this what do you call it? This mistake or this something I think of the word of it, but this issue equates to this penalty, right? Just so there's no. Again, it's always about writing your rule book and always filling in all the gray area, right? This is just. It seems like there's some gray areas pointed out this weekend, and they need to fill some of it in, right? That's a
and I think that's something that they started. I know back in the winter, so they've slowly. I think they're working on filling in those gray areas, both on procedures and I think tech side. So, hopefully by 2023 there will be a lot less gray areas in this.
All right. Let's cap off this edition of the Paddock Pass, again brought to you by Trinity Karting Group. I know that when you and I spoke on Saturday evening, a bunch of stuff obviously happened at the end of the day on Saturday trackside. I know that you kind of want to speak to that a little bit.
I really don't.
You know what? Yeah. Let me change that. Let me change that. David, I know that you feel compelled to speak to the situation.
Yeah, it's, I talked about it in my extra 2-minute flat Sunday morning. There just wasn't a lot of professionalism being shown in both the pro shifter category and X30 senior after the incident that we had that at the end of the day there. The pro shifter thing, again, these are grown adults that are racing in this category, aside from the couple of drivers who are under the age of 18, including Parker DeLong. I will give a shout out to him. He did a really good job in his pro shifter debut, staying out of trouble and running top 10 pace all weekend long with leading edge motorsports entry. So did really well there. Nice. But for the most part, they're grown ass adults, it's let them handle it themselves. We don't need sideline / keyboard jockeys, yelling and screaming and throwing water at drivers while they're sitting in scale line. So that's what happened. There was a lot of between the AJ Myers and Marion Kremer's contact. There was a lot of talking, mostly one-sided, at Kremer's for the contact. And so it was kind of disheartening to see that. Literally, I was right there, standing there when it was happening, waiting to do our scale video with the winner, Kyle Wick, who was further back in the scale line. So I got to see all that, witness all that. And it was kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
The terminology that was being used at Marnian Kremers and just the total lack of maturity in some of the way that people, again,
no sportsmanship.
These are two grown ass adults. They were going to have a conversation about it. They did have a conversation about it. Let them handle it themselves. They're the two drivers. My biggest problem with this is people think they can be a race director from pit lane. And especially if you're only following the one kart, you can't be a race director following the one kart. Mm-hmm. You have no idea what happened in that corner. The two people that know what happened are the two drivers that were involved. And that's my biggest problem is people blaming. Again, we've seen it all season long, with other incidences that happened before. And again, even the X30 senior incident that was later in the day, where we saw even more unprofessionalism going on. And that was just downright stupidity, really, to be honest, to be acting the way they did. I understand that, a scary accident occurred, but the driver should have been was checked out, was alert, awake, and relatively unharmed, obviously freaked out. But the manner in which that people acted after that incident and the threats that were laid out it's just disgusting.
Yeah. I obviously I can't comment because I wasn't there, but I can understand the situation in terms of what you've detailed to me. It's tough. It's tough to hear about stuff like that.
Yeah. The physical threats, and it's disgusting. It really is. And that, we'll just talk about the incident. It was between Cole Kleck and Nate Cicero.
Yep.
And, Cicero made the mistake. He made an error of trying to push Cole Kleck down to the outside edge of the racetrack, as you do when you make an error. He made an error on the racetrack. They're coming to the line and he squeezed him off. We've seen it all the time. The biggest difference in this situation, most racetracks don't have a wall that's 5 feet away from the edge of the racetrack.
It's true.
We've seen this kind of stuff happen at Newcastle all the time. Two drivers make contact. One kart goes spinning off, doesn't hit anything, but spins off. Here we have a racetrack where the wall is literally 5 feet away from the racing surface. So if there was no wall there, if it was a Newcastle type scenario, Cole Kleck would have just spun off and maybe ran into the pond, if anything, that at all. If he would have hit anything, it would have been the pond. And unfortunately, it was, we're at Utah Motorsports campus where they have a wall on the front stretch that is 5 feet away from the racing surface. Yeah. Obviously not the most ideal and safe design of that, but it was also a mistake by Nate Cicero. And the threats made to him and his team and obviously things are heated because people are very competitive. There's a lot of teams that dislike other teams, but the hatred that was just felt there that night, obviously Superkarts USA had to cancel the podiums because of, they had to bring police in, escort, at least one individual, I believe, was escorted out of the premises for the weekend. And again, they had to take they had to escort Nate Cicero off the property because of the actual physical and verbal threats that were being laid at him.
That's horrible to hear.
Yeah, it was it was a disgusting feeling Saturday night, and talking about it again makes me feel disgusted and gross.
Yeah.
And, obviously, again, these are kids. They're going to learn from it. It's no different than the Alessandro Di Tullio incident we saw last year at SCUSA Winter Series.
Yeah,
it had the same situation. Nobody was seriously hurt. This time, unfortunately, Cole Kleck hit the wall because there was a wall there and fractured his wrist. It could have been a lot worse. And obviously I understand that. And obviously there's it's somebody's child, fathers. I understand that. But there's a certain point that you understand, hey, racing is about taking risk. And there's potential to get hurt in racing, no matter what racing you are doing. It could be Briggs racing, it could be Pro Shifter, it could be X30, it could be anything. There's always a risk, and that's something you have to understand. And you have to understand that you're putting yourself out there. There are other people who may not, may make a mistake, just as Nate Cicero did. It does happen. And so I think, again, there's still just that lack of professionalism. We're talking about the top level of our sport, and not only by the drivers, but those outside the cockpit as well too. And again, it stems from allowing some of this stuff to happen. It's, if Cicero held his line and didn't swerve down to crowd Cole Kleck, none of this would have happened. So maybe we need to remove that one move type move on the straightaways. Either hold your line or you're penalized for swerving. There's a lot of things we can do and look at, and I'm not sure what the answer is going to be. But again, all series, not dictate, but call races differently than others. So we're never going to have a uniform rule on these type of scenarios either.
Well, we will take the opportunity, I think, David, to say, hey, we're glad that Cole's okay, Cole Kleck. I know that obviously the incident we heard could have been worse. And everything I've read since then, that it's a fractured wrist, which is going to obviously heal. So, we'll send our best wishes to Cole and hope he dials things back in and gets himself back in the cart, because obviously he showed extremely well on the weekend, which was great for him. Kind of a breakout weekend for Cole, and just disappointing to see, number one, the incident happen, and then, of course, the fallout afterwards, right? That's just the kind of thing that it puts a black mark on the sport, because, again, our sport, as you said, is fueled a lot by passion and emotion. And a lot of times, or sometimes, I'll say a lot of times, there are instances where emotion gets the better of people that are around. And it's a shame to see it happen, especially when it goes to the extent of which I've been kind of informed on. It's really, again, you were there and you were discussing. For me, not being there and just hearing all this stuff, I just felt really disappointed for our sport. That's how I felt from where I was at Road America. I was pretty upset in hearing the accounts that I had heard while I was at Road America. So it's tough to hear about it for me.
Yeah, I mean, you don't flip another person's cart off the cart stand as a retaliation for what happens on the racetrack. That's something you don't do. But yeah, Cole was there the next day. He had Frankie Mossman sub in his K100 senior cart. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, had talked to him. He was obviously in so spirits, and was there for the podium ceremonies because he did finish on the podium on Saturday in K100 senior, and then Marnian Kremers, who ended up finishing third, the position Cole Kleck was fighting for in the X30 senior category on Saturday. He joined. Cole was invited to join Marnian up top on the third step and was awarded the third place trophy. So
all right.
At least good sportsmanship there by Marnian to provide Cole Kleck a little bit of a happy note as he left Utah.
Yeah, sure enough. All right, let's put a cap on this one. Time to go back, get back here and get actually into the race reporting itself. Again, this edition of our EKN Debrief presented to you by Acceleration Kart Racing. When we get back, time to jump into the race reports. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for 2022 include the Ignite Majors, featuring events at the Daytona International Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Quincy Grand Prix, Newcastle Motorsports Park, and the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the 5-round regionally based Ignite Challenge at tracks in Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. Local club programs have also been established in other states like Idaho, Texas, Nebraska, New York, Florida, and more. Join Margay Racing for some fast, fun, and great memories at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. You can buy all the latest and greatest products on the market. But when you're karting to win, it boils down to one thing: you, the driver. Gain the knowledge and abilities by investing in yourself at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, and you'll find those extra tenths of a second you need to put yourself on the podium. The school was established by Superkarts USA Hall of Fame driver Alan Rudolph, with decades of victories and championships in multiple forms of the sport, including other disciplines of racing. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at the Speed Sports Racing Park in the metropolitan Houston area, is designed to teach driving skills at all levels. The instructors of the Academy have decades of racing experience and educating drivers of all ages. Classes at the Academy will teach the concepts and skills needed both behind the wheel and off the track. From the beginning kart racing experience and intro to karting courses, to their advanced 1-day and 2-day courses and karting clinics, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can improve the skills of any driver. For more information on the specific programs that the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can provide for you, head to speedsports.com and click on the Racing Academy page. Be sure to follow the Academy on social media by searching for Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Welcome back to episode number 96 of our EKN Debrief as we break down this past weekend Superkarts USA SpringNationals at Utah Motorsports Campus. We'll jump our way now here into the race report presented by Parolin USA. It all started in 1994 when former kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and they run a factory race team at all the major Superkarts USA, USPKS, and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis line for 2022 includes the Invader shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior drivers, the 28mm Opportunity model for the cadet classes, and the Daytona 4-cycle chassis. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. All right, DC, let's jump into it with X30 Pro. As always, I'll give you the headline. You fill us in with what happened throughout the weekend. Here's X30 Pro. The headline: Norberg doubles to help in Drive for 5.
Yeah, he said it in the post-weekend interview that I did conduct with him. I completely forgot about there is still that Drive for 5 going for Ryan Norberg, who is a 4-time SCUSA Pro Tour champion. Obviously, 2020 was unable to claim that championship. And then again, last year in 2021, going up against Brandon Tyner and eventual champion Hannah Greenmeyer, who came away with the championship there. So 2022 could be the season that he does get that 5th championship, and this weekend certainly helped. The only session he did not finish in P1 was qualifying for Saturday, where his Wallison Performance Group teammate Paul Bocuse was able to just nip him in the qualifying session for fast time. But Norberg came back and was able to score the pre-final win. He jumped out to the lead in the main event, but eventually, as we talked about, Cole Kleck was just on fire this weekend and was able to come from the 9th position on the grid to eventually get up into 2nd and then run down Ryan Norberg and take over the lead on lap 15. So Cole Kleck was able to lead his first 2 laps in the Pro Tour X30 senior division until Norberg was able to get it back. And then as Cole Kleck came up, that allowed former world champion Pedro Hildebrand with the Burrell Art and Nate Cicero to close in as well too. So it was essentially a 4-driver battle in the closing laps of the main event. But, Cole did, as a senior rookie, kind of got schooled a little bit by Norberg and then also by Hildebrand later on as in the closing laps. And that allowed Norberg to kind of get away and score his 2nd victory of the season, with Hildebrand coming home in the 2nd spot. And then again, as we talked about, Cole Kleck and Nate Cicero were battling for the 3rd position coming to the line when the two made the contact. Cole Kleck obviously into the wall heavy and scattered his cart. His cart actually crossed the line without him in the 3rd position, with Cicero crossing in 4th. Cicero, for the move, was removed from the remainder of the event. So this promoted Kremers, who crossed the line in 4th, to move up into the 3rd position, Paul Bocuse ended up in fourth with Jeremy Fletcher in his Ryan Perry Motorsport debut in the fifth spot.
Yeah, all in all, from what I saw, Cole Kleck, an impressive run to work his way forward. Like you said, kind of got schooled a bit, but here's this guy who, in X30, rookie in the X30 senior category, battling against four-time SCUSA champion and a former world champion, right? So definitely it is some pretty heady company up front. Hate to see the contact in the final lap, but again, guys moving forward, as you said.
And Cicero being the championship leader coming into the weekend as well too.
So again, that was a huge.
All three of those drivers, are successful and outright, and then to have a rookie like Cole Kleck, who you've talked about in many podcasts, slowly creeping up there, and I think the move to CRG, with Arcane Motorsports certainly helped him, find that extra edge.
Yeah, it's been about a year and a half, right? Since I've been watching Cole, and he's kind of been stepping up at the Winter Series and dialing things in. And again, when I found out that he was battling up front, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of the arrival of Cole Kleck on the national scene. So again, hopefully he mends up quickly and we get to see him back at a race very soon. We mentioned Frankie Mossman earlier in the show. Frankie running Cole's kart in K100 on the Sunday when he obviously wasn't able to. But Frankie having a good overall weekend. Well, hard charger, David, on Saturday.
Yeah, racing under the Team Bennick tent aboard a Tony kart, was able to grab a bunch of spots to be the hard charger for the main event on Saturday, up 17 from 25th to 8th. And continued that momentum into Sunday for sure.
Norberg's always been pretty good out in Utah, and you mentioned only one session where he did not top it, and that was Saturday qualifying. Essentially swept the day. David on Sunday qualifies on pole, wins the pre-final, and a 5.5 second win over Hiltbrand on Sunday.
Yeah, the main event was just a schooling by Norberg. Essentially, kept the lead through the opening laps. They battled a little bit for second behind him, but as the race went on, he just continued to pull away, despite, Pedro Hiltbrand up into the second spot and winning that position. And then it didn't want to say it could have been even more. Unfortunately, the race was red flagged at lap 18 with a wreck involving Julian DaCosta, who we've learned to be okay, checked out okay, but was complaining of chest pain. So obviously Superkarts USA wanted to be proactive and threw the red flag along with the checkered flag on lap 18 to end the event, or end the main event. Ended up being Hildebrand, as I said, in the second position, with Bocuse earning the third spot on the podium. Frankie Mossman drove up to the fourth spot, so had another solid finish on the weekend, with Jeremy Fletcher earning another top 5 result.
John Burke was the hard charger, up 10 spots, started 26th, finished the 16th. And DC, it's crazy. As I was thinking about on the weekend, on Sunday after Norberg, it kind of swept again. Like, this guy's got 4 championships already, pushing for 5. It's kind of a bit of an amazement to me that he's not over in Europe, right? I know that full-time guy for Rawlson likes to live at home here, and he's a Florida guy, but I'm kind of surprised that he's just never been snatched up. I know he's older, but man, this guy really, the way he's developing his resume, this is legend stuff right now for Ryan Norberg. We're talking about, you put him with the likes of, some of the big dogs over the last many years, like a Lynn Haddock, like a Ronnie Emick, these guys that just won all the time.
Yeah, I would definitely put him among America's top karting drivers of all time, for sure. With the way he's performing and continues to perform. I asked him remember we were at the Winter Series and he wasn't racing, and I had an off, I guess not on the record, but kind of on the record discussion, and he just Europe isn't something that he strives for. Yep. And I think if you look at the current model of what's going on over there, it's all about the young kids. It really is
He's twice his age as some of them.
Well, at the single speed level where, the gearbox level, you have your Marnian Kremers and you have your actual grown ass men that are racing KZ. I think if, we've seen him do some shifter stuff here on YouTube every once in a while. I think for him, if he did want to go race in Europe, it'd have to be shifter.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Because just the way the model is right now with the factory teams. I mean, if you look at Lorenzo Travisinato, two-time world champion. Why he's not racing single speed anymore? He's racing shifter because he's too valuable as a coach for these younger drivers who are in OK and OK Junior.
Yeah, true enough. Good point. Great point. Let's move to Pro Shifter. And here's your headline for the Pro Shifter category. Wick gives Track Magics first as Myers claims redemption.
It was an outright battle all weekend long in this Pro Shifter category, but we thought it was going to be Kremers who was going to be able to dominate, very similar to what he did in NOLA. Obviously he had the Burrell Art and PSL karting team right behind him with Jake French and Hunter Pickett now. They went 1, 2, 3 in qualifying on Saturday. Kremers went away with the pre-final, but AJ Myers was stepping in kind of slowly but surely, got quicker and quicker as the day went on. It was there in the main event on lap 2, ended up being contact between Myers and Kremers. It was Myers who actually got the hole shot. That was one of Kremers' downfall on the weekend, especially on Saturday, was getting off the line cleanly as he got jumped on Saturday in the pre-final and then jumped again by Myers in the main event. It was going into turn 1. The two were side by side, and it's a kind of a double apex corner. And as they went to the second apex, Kremers was all the way to the inside, and Myers was making the turn, and the two made contact. Again, some will say Myers was ahead. It was his corner, but others will say, Kremers was there and he knew Kremers was there. So it's a little bit of, it's kind of a racing incident. And, obviously there were no penalties handed down. So that's how the officials saw it. Yep. And I think that's kind of how, outside observers and of course myself see it as well too. So the two made contact. They were pushed out wide. This essentially allowed Jake French, who was the provisional, I believe he was the provisional pole setter, but had a pushback bumper penalty, drop him from the win in the pre-final. So French was out front, had a pretty good lead ahead of Hunter Pickett and a couple others, but on the way up was Kyle Wick, who was unable to complete a lap in qualifying due to an engine failure. So once he got that engine change, came up from 25th all the way to 8th in the pre-final, continued his charge in the main event. And then by lap 19 of the 20-lap main event, Wick was able to run down and pass French for the lead. And from there, the race was won. So Kyle Wick was able to go on and earn Track Magic his first ever in GFC, their first ever Pro Shifter victory on the Pro Tour.
Yeah, 0.5 of a second over French in second and Pickett in third. So the PSL karting Burrell Art drivers finishing in second and third. Jacob Gulick fourth for GFC, and Hannah Greenmeyer. A pretty solid run on the LN kart, the Lando Norris kart for Rawlison, rounding up the top 5. All told, David, a pretty good day for the Wick family. Kyle, of course, with the win, but Connor Wick driving up as a hard charger started in 23rd. 17 position improvement for Connor Wick up to 6th.
Yeah, he had a shifter linkage break in for him on the pre-finals. So obviously both Wicks had the speed. Connor was pretty much there all weekend long, had top 5 pace probably all weekend long, just didn't quite have the luck that Kyle did to be able to drive all the way to the front of the field. But a 6th place finish for him was pretty solid from 23rd.
So out of the gate on Sunday, Kremers stepping back up to the top of the charts. David qualified on pole, won the pre-final, but how'd things shake down in the main event?
Yeah, this time Kremers was able to get a good start, was able to get out to the lead on the opening circuit with AJ Myers and Kyle Wick right there on his rear bumper. Lap 2, though, Myers and Wick both went around Kremers. It was almost like maybe Kremers was looking to save tires or something similar to that. But okay. Myers and Wick were able to get by, and both were able to keep Kremers at bay. Kremers really didn't look like he had the pace to compete, or just couldn't find the opening to get by along with Kyle Wick. Kept on Myers' bumper the entire distance. And again, just couldn't find the space or couldn't find the opportunity to make the move for the lead. And ended up coming 98 thousandths short at the line as AJ Myers was able to score redemption on Sunday to score his first victory of the 2022 season.
Yeah, Wick and Kremers capping off the podium, French in fourth, and another top five finish for Hannah Greenmeyer. Another track magic kart kind of starring a little bit there on Sunday as Charlotte Chung started at the tail of the field in 25th. David able to move up a number of spots as the hard charger.
Yeah, I got that wrong, didn't I? I put 17 spots. I think let me get that right here for you. Nope, that's Saturday. That I gotta get on Sunday. Hold on just a second. But she I do know she wasn't able to make, I think she stalled at the start and wasn't able to get it refired. So she moved up 8 spots to finish 17th in the main event. But I think, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think she was the only driver that had the IME 175 on.
Oh, okay. All right. Charlotte Chung for Track Magic and GFC. Hard charger in.
Sorry, I was just going to say, because it's the sound. Like, I think she was the only one that sounded different than all the rest. I think all the rest sounded like KZ's to where I think she had that 175 sound.
Good for her. All right, let's move to KA 100 Senior. And again, I talked about from the start, a couple of drivers, of course, doubling up. Here's your headline for KA 100 Senior. Fletcher doubles up to further championship hunt.
Yeah, certainly a solid performance, a Norberg-esque performance by Jeremy Fletcher in the KA 100 Senior division. Again, only sessions that he wasn't at the top of the time charts was qualifying. Caleb Schrader, last year's SpringNationals winner with Rollison Performance Group, was able to set the fast time in qualifying, but it was Fletcher who came through with the pre-final win. In the main event, Fletcher led the entire distance. The top 4 drivers were nose to tail the entire distance. And again, nobody was able to remove Fletcher from the top spot as he led all 20 laps for his second victory of the season, winning by 3.2 seconds at the line. That's a little bit cushion because of a little bit of racing for the second spot in the closing laps between the rest of the top 4, which involved Cole Kleck, Schrader, and then Cedric Lupien, who actually crossed the line in the 4th spot, but was one of the, I want to say, 5 drivers who were disqualified for the seat strut infraction that occurred on Saturday.
Well, I moved Alex Stanfield up into the 4th position, Ethan Rapp up into P5. Hard charger of 21 positions, Lydia Small on a Tony kart. Started 33rd. She fought her way up to 12th.
Yeah, again, part of it, tire degradation. If you don't get very many laps in the pre-final, kind of helped you towards the main event time. But again, a lot of racing in the K100 Senior division, so a lot of spots to be able to gain there.
Let's move into Sunday. Cedric Lupien coming back from that DQ to qualify in the pole position. But again, it was Fletcher who dialed things up in the pre-final.
Yeah, Fletcher went to the front right away in the pre-final, was able to score the race win in that one. And then the main event was just a walk away. We had 3 drivers nose to tail with Stanfield, Adam Ali, the Canadian, and Lupien. Running nose to tail, but Fletcher continued to just pull away from them lap after lap after lap. The 9.1 second margin of victory was a little lopsided as well too, because they were fighting for the second spot in the closing laps as well. So, but again, still just a dominating performance to where I want to say Fletcher had at least 2 to 3 tenths a lap on the 3 drivers that were drafting. So, Stanfield ended up finishing second with Ali in the 3rd spot. Lupien crossed the line in the 4th spot, but a starting penalty dropped him 5 seconds. So that took him out of the top 5. That promoted Frankie Mossman, who actually started the pre-final dead last. So what was it? 30, where's the number? 36. So started 36, worked his way forward, got, I want to say, close to the top 15 in the pre-final. And then from there worked his way up into the 4th spot. Subbing for Cole Kleck aboard that CRG machine.
Wow. Aiden Rudolph on the Burl Art rounding up the top 5. Hard charger Vinny Maskelis on an Expree up 19 spots. 31st up to 12th for Maskelis.
Yeah, he actually qualified 2nd overall. Was in the lead group, and contact put him off the racetrack. So that dropped him down the order in the pre-final and then eventually off the racetrack. So he saved his tires, was able to get up 19 spots in the 20 laps that they did have and got up to 12th spot.
Oh, nicely done. Nicely done for Vinny. All right, let's cap this one off. Let's go into a quick break. When we get back, we'll do X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, and both the Master Shifter and X30 Masters class. More to come on this edition of the EKN Debrief. The new face of competitive karting in the Pacific Northwest region is RaceLab. The full-service karting operation is located at the state-of-the-art Kartplex facility in Oliver, British Columbia, Canada, providing everything you need to hit the track or put yourself in a successful driver development program. RaceLab is the official North American distributor for the TB Kart chassis brand, providing the full range of models from kid kart to shifter kart. Villeneuve Racing Karts is their flagship product, available only through RaceLab. The brand carries the name of Formula One champion and Indianapolis 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve, with each model produced by TB Kart. Kartplex, the home of RaceLab, is situated on the grounds of the Area 27 Motorsports Park. From full arrive and drive TB Kart rentals to leagues and competition karting, the facility provides a new home to developing the future stars of motorsports, all beginning at Kartplex with RaceLab. Follow RaceLab on social media on Facebook and Instagram, or load up their website at www.theracelab.ca to learn more about TB Kart and Villeneuve Racing Karts. RaceLab. Race with us, win with us.
History, success, family. Those are the three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis, and they have provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers throughout their near 6 decades of business. Comet's online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. Comet Kart Sales attends dozens of karting events every year, offering trackside service for racers and families. Karting veterans Mark Dismore Jr. and Gary Lawson provide one-on-one driver coaching and tuning assistance for each trackside customer. The engine building business, Comet Racing Engines, has won countless major events and championships over decades of karting, and they continue to offer the best trackside service in the industry. Make sure you head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be a part of the Comet Kart Sales family today.
Welcome back to the EKN Debrief episode number 96, as we take a deep dive into the Superkarts USA Spring Nationals, which happened last weekend at Utah Motorsports Campus. The race report brought to you by Parolin USA. Here's the headline, David, for X30 Junior. It is Burnett claims first as Ingrata bags second of season.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting X30 Junior category this weekend, as there really wasn't any clear-cut favorites for each session. We had Brandon Carr ended up qualifying on the pole position with fast time, and then we had Caleb Gaffera winning the pre-final, but was put back because of a pushback bumper penalty. That moved Max Taylor, who made his Rollison Performance Group debut as the pre-final winner and the pole setter for the main event. Starting third was Canadian Jensen Burnett, another driver who found a new home racing with Ryan Perry Motorsport on the weekend, and one of his first few starts on OTK product as well too. I know we've seen Ingrata do a lot of Energy, a lot of Parolin, a lot of other karts as well too, but this was his first Pro Tour weekend on the Tony Kart chassis. Burnett moved himself up into the lead by lap 6 and essentially led the remainder of the race. Both Taylor and Gaffera were right there. It looked like they were going to be able to work together, but Burnett kept consistent lap times, was able to maintain the advantage that he held for much of the race, and drove to what would be his first Pro Tour victory.
Man, did you not pick Jensen as the top 5 of the Supernats last year?
I might have.
I think you did.
Was it for junior category or was it for Mini Swift?
I think it was for Mini Swift. I think you picked it
for Mini Swift. Yeah, because I want to think this is his first junior season.
Yeah. By the way, hey, couple of Canadians winning here, by the way. Just want to say that.
Yeah. I could have done that in the title, but I didn't want to make your head any bigger.
Of course you didn't. Oh, Canada. So Aiden Ingrata ends up fourth. Cameron Brinkman in fifth. Hard charger on Saturday's X30 Junior race was Ernesto Rivera on the Cosmic, up 9 spots, 21st up to 12th for Ernesto.
Yeah, I want to say Contact took him down the order in the pre-final and thus getting the 9 spots. But yeah, Burnett had a good run on Saturday, and then Taylor making his debut with Rolison Performance Group, beating out Gaffera for that spot. And then Ingrata, his first weekend on the Pro Tour on the CRG, moving into Sunday, Ingrata was the driver to score fast time in qualifying. So getting that CRG dialed in with Speed Concepts Racing. But again, a penalty would decide the pre-final winner, with Ingrata getting a jump start after provisionally earning the win in that race. So that moved Burnett up to the pole position for the main event. Essentially, the race came down to just Ingrata and Burnett out front battling for the top spot after Ingrata came up from, I want to say, the 6th spot after he got that penalty. So started 5th, got himself back up towards the front, and him and Burnett were able to kind of get away. It came down to a last lap battle between these two, and going through the double left-handers in the second half of the circuit. The two made contact, both going for the same piece of real estate side by side. Unfortunately, Burnett suffered damage, was unable to continue, and that allowed Ingrata to drive away to his second victory on the season and his first with the CRG brand.
Ouch, boys going at it on the final circuit. Ends up being 9/10 of a second for Ingrata at the line. Jesus Vasquez Jr. on the EOS ends up in second. Taylor and Gaffera third and fourth. Gaffera, actually the hard charger, started 19th after contact in the pre-final. He scrapped his way up to P4. Ernesto Rivera, who was the hard charger in race number 1 on Saturday, he ends up capping off the top 5. So all told, David, some pretty solid racing in the X30 Junior category, would you say?
Yeah, Max Garcia came in as a championship leader, didn't quite have the weekend he wanted to have. So this is going to, all these different winners, obviously Ingrata getting a second is going to help. But, it's going to shuffle up the championship order as we head to the Summer Nationals. So this could be that one category that we're going to be keeping an eye on every lap come Sunday and the championship points, how they break down.
Yeah, it could be fun when we get to Newcastle for the Summer Nats with the championships and the number 1 plates up for grabs. Let's move now to KA100 Junior. Here's your headline. Smith earns career first as Vasquez earns second victory of season.
Yeah, the driver to beat early on the day to begin Saturday was Caleb Gaffera. He was able to set fast time in qualifying and win the pre-final. However, he got shuffled back after leading the first 5 laps of the main event. This allowed Smith and Cooper Shipman to jump out to the first 2 positions on the field. Smith essentially was able to hold court and show the way for the remainder of the race with Shipman on his bumper. And Smith was able to go on to earn his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory in the KA100 Senior Division.
Yeah, nice run for Smith to get Charlie Smith to get that race win. Shipman, Vasquez, Miller, and Gaffera, as David said. Hard charger, Valentino Garbarino. Big move forward, David. Started 39th, up 22 spots into 17th.
Yeah, got a driver we've been kind of following all season long as one of those that, might have that breakthrough victory. Unfortunately, Utah was not very kind to Valentino, but was able to get that hard charger and still show the pace that the leaders were putting down to get up to the 17th position from the tail of the field.
A name from outside the top 5 finishers from Saturday, starting things off in a good position, Keegan Kaminsky for GFC, David, fast qualifier on Sunday.
Yeah, just found the right setup to move into the final day of competition. Obviously was kind of there in the top 10 throughout the day on Saturday, but found that extra pace on Sunday morning to be able to set fast time in the qualifying session. Unfortunately, Saturday's winners, Charlie Smith, had other ideas and was able to drive himself up to the front in the pre-final for that race win. And it was him and Nash Motorsport teammate Jesus Vasquez Jr. that were able to kind of break away from the rest of the field in the main event. it was Smith and Vasquez going back and forth, each taking turn at the lead. And then eventually it was Vasquez that came away with the top spot and was able to earn his second victory on the season in KA100 Junior.
Yeah, Miller rounding out the top three. The driver scored or had a good run to fourth on Saturday. Gets third, gets one more position up onto the podium on Sunday. So good job there for Stephen Miller. Preston Lambert on the Track Magic P4, and Kaminsky, who had started the day off as the top qualifier, at least getting something to show for it. David, he ends up P5. Another hard charging run for Ernesto Rivera. This poor guy started at the tail of the field. It feels like all weekend long. He ends up going 21 spots up, 36 to 15th for Ernesto Rivera. So he had a hard charger in X30 Junior and a hard charger in K100 Junior. Probably passed more carts than anybody on the weekend.
Yeah, he could have that honor for the weekend. It was actually a good finish for Kaminsky, as you said, top qualifier. Ended up dropping down to 10th in the pre-final, so came up from 10th to 5th in that race. So a good run by him.
All right, let's let you kind of wrap up and do a quick wrap of the Masters Shifter and X30 Masters class. I know that we had talked about the fact that Masters had no entries going in. They'd actually canceled the class, turned it around, and actually, I believe, ran the category with a couple of drivers. I'll give you the headline, Dave. You fill everything in. This is Master Shifter and X30 Master. Gouache wins both days in Master Shifter as Barrios doubles in X30 Master.
Yeah, Mario Barrios and Mike Rollison, the owner of Rollison Performance Group, were two walk-up entries for the X30 Master category. So they ended up taking Master Shifter, putting it in its own time slot after they had announced that X30 Master wasn't going to run. And then these two walk-ups were put in with Master Shifter. So essentially we had 5 carts in 2 classes out on the racetrack. Barrios ended up earning maximum points, running both days, while Rollison only ran on Saturday to kind of help give Barrios, a good measuring stick on the racetrack. For Master Shifter, Michael Gouache ended up scoring the victory on Saturday. It was taken away due to Nerf bar irregularity. They were actually titanium, and I think the rule book says magnetic metal or magnetic steel. But that victory was what's the word I'm looking for? Reinstated. Thank you. Was reinstated Sunday morning after I had already written the race report on Saturday. So Gouache ended up taking the victory over Robert Feig in the HMG Maverick with Ken Schilling in third. And then the drivers finished in the same position on Sunday, with Gouache getting his second victory of the weekend.
All right, there's the wrap up there. We've got only 2 more categories remaining in this edition of the EKN Debrief. After this quick break, we'll come back with Mini Swift and Micro Swift.
Are you ready to go from carts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from carts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
Established in 1999, PSL Karting has become a powerhouse within the karting industry for North America and around the world. PSL Karting is your complete source for all Burrell Art products as the North American importer, providing this top quality product through both their expansive dealer network or through the PSLkarting.com online store. Whatever you need is available 24/7 online, including safety gear, parts, components, and full karting packages. All 3 brands, Burrell Art, Ricardo Kart, and Charles Leclerc Karts, are in stock and ready to hit the track. Grab your winning chassis for any category by visiting PSLkarting.com to find your nearest dealer. PSL Karting is always looking for interest in new dealers and teams to help create new business relationships. Drivers looking to take their talents to the next level can join the Burrell Art North America race team, competing at all the major U.S. and Canadian events this season. When you're ready to win, go with PSL Karting. Back at it here to wrap up the race report, brought to you by Parallel USA on this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode number 96, closing in on the magic number 100. Parallel USA, the sponsor of our race report. David Cole and Rob Howden here. Let's jump in, David, to the mini Swift category. Seems to me like Jack Iliff really had things rolling, qualified on pole on the Parallel to start off Saturday.
Yeah, Iliff was kind of the measuring stick all weekend long, but it wasn't a stick that nobody could reach. A lot of drivers were kind of in contention, especially Lucas Palacio and then Utah driver Michael McGow. The Y is silent on that, I learned. McGow.
It's McGow?
Yeah.
I've been saying McGahey. Good thing
I know.
Good job, Rob.
Yeah, well, I didn't know till Saturday. I'm like, man, this kid's running up front all weekend long. I got to learn how to say his name.
Good for you, David. Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, Iliff set fast time in qualifying and was the pre-final winner, but was given a 3-second penalty for jumping the start. So that promoted Lucas Palacio to the pole position for the main event. Iliff started 6th, but fell back to 12th on the opening lap.
Whoa.
And that allowed Palacio to kind of run up front. Iliff, however, drove his way forward and was able to get into the lead by lap 9, and he was followed by McGow, who started 12th in the main event. So it was essentially Iliff, McGow, and Palacio that were out front, battling for the victory. Ended up with Iliff holding off a larger group because as they were fighting in the last few laps, the second group was able to close in, which I think made like a 10-cart pack racing for position in the final few corners. So it ended up being Iliff that was able to score the victory. Weinberg was actually one of those drivers as well that was in that second group and was able to fight his way up into the second spot, but a pushback bumper penalty dropped him out of the order. That promoted Lucas Palacio to the second position. Gage Bailey aboard a Bennick into the third spot. Asher Osteen with an Tony cart in fourth, and then Tyler Roberts on aboard a Parolin in the fifth position. McGow was in the mix as well there, but unfortunately in the final corners was dropped back to the 8th spot.
Wow, a lot of action on the final circuit. Hard charger Alexis Belargian, I believe I would say that. Alexis Belargian. On the Burrell Art, 19 spots up, 36th up to 17th for Belargian. But a good start to the day for Jack Iliff. He came back, David, on Sunday, qualified on the pole position. Then McGow stepping up. As you said, he had great pace all weekend long. McGow ends up winning the pre-final.
Yeah, it was a good race between him, Iliff, and Gage Bailey that were going back and forth throughout the 10-lap race. So it gave the Utah driver the pole position for the main event, but it was actually Lucas Palacio that joined them out front. So it was kind of a similar thing to what we saw on Saturday. But this time the top three were kind of running nose to tail the entire distance, kind of making sure. I think they had a little bit more real estate than what they had to close out on the day on Saturday. As they made their way through the final few laps, though, it was Jack Iliff who continued to show the way and essentially led the majority of the race, and then held off any challenges that they did have in the final few corners to be able to score his third victory, second on the weekend in the mini Swift division.
So Lucas Palacio ends up in second, Kai Johnson in third, David. But based on what you're saying here is that McGow was actually the driver who ended up finishing P3, but a contact penalty dropped him down to 8th.
Yeah, a little bit of contact between, I believe this is what they called it because they don't give an actual number for the who the contact was with. Okay. But the incident responsibility, I want to say, was with Palacio as they were coming through the final few corners. There was a little bit of contact. Palacio was able to get the position right back, though, after the contact. But as far as I know, that was the only contact that could have been deemed to be, incident responsibility because Michael was leading the race early and fell back to third and essentially was there the entire distance. So I guess they're calling all contact similar, despite even if the offended driver is able to return back to their position a few corners later. So not quite sure on that, but either way, they gave him a 5-second penalty and that dropped him down to P8.
Yeah, moved Kai Johnson on the Bennick up into third spot. Gage Bailey, another top 5 finish. He ends up in 4th. Asher Ockstein ends up again on the top 5 run in P5. Ashton Woon on the Nitro Kart was the hard charger in the race, the second race, the Sunday event for Mini Swift. Started in 36th, up 19 positions into 17th.
Yeah, not a good weekend for Woon. Contact, I think, in both days, in both pre-finals, that dropped him back. But thankfully was able to get through clean in the main event on Sunday to get up to that 17th spot.
Let's wrap up the race report by looking at Micro Swift. And here's your headline. Simoni earns 1st and 2nd Pro Tour victories.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, there were a lot of first-time winners this weekend at the Pro Tour SpringNationals, and Rocco Simoni was one of them. It looked like it was going to be Julian Sanchez, the GFC driver, put in a pretty solid performance early on Saturday, setting fast time in qualifying, and was able to win the pre-final. Unfortunately, he was slipped down the order as the race went on in the main event, so not quite sure if it was set up or just wasn't able to keep pace with the leaders. Eventually, it was Rocco that was the driver that was leading the way and led the majority of the race. In the final laps, he was challenged by Royce Vega and Troy Ferguson, the NOLA 2-time winner and point leader heading into the weekend. Those two Bennett drivers were challenging the Parolin driver in the final few corners, but it ended up being Rocco scoring the victory in the closest finish on the weekend, winning by only 0.003 of a second at the line.
Drag race. I like it. Jackson Gibson ends up 4th. Paxton Dyson on an EOS capping off the top 5. David mentioned that Royce Vega was in the fight there with Rocco Simoni, also the hard charger. Started in 10th, and that run up to 2nd was an 8-spot improvement. But David, Simoni kept things rolling. Had the momentum, of course, from Saturday, rolled right on into Sunday, qualifies on pole, wins the pre-final, ends up taking the win overall. How did it all play out in the main event, however?
Yeah, it was a 2-driver fight in the main event. Troy Ferguson made it that happen as him and Simoni were able to kind of draft and get away from the rest of the field. Eventually, as the laps started to wind down, the two kind of went back and forth, but it was Simoni that was able to secure the victory in the final circuit, scoring his 2nd on the weekend.
Nicely done. Vega, another strong run, ends up 3rd. Hard charger of the race, actually coming up to 4th from 14th, and that was Braden Wagner on the GFC. Started 14th, goes to P4, 10-spot improvement up into the top 5, and Nicholas Orbezo on the Tony Kart, capping off the top 5 for the drivers in the Micro Swift category. Folks, we'll wrap this thing up after this quick message. Final break in this edition of the Debrief. David will wrap things up. We'll have a look at the Constructors' Championship, and we'll look at the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar to tell you where we'll be over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Don't go anywhere. We'll wrap things up after this break. All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is the gold standard for quality and performance. In the U.S., OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. From the legendary Tony Kart brand to the race-winning Cosmic and Esprit chassis, and now the new Red Speed and EOS brands, OTK quality is second to none. All 5 brands are winning races and championships across the country in national programs like the Rock Cup USA Florida Winter Tour and the Challenge of the Americas, the SCUSA Pro Tour and Winter Series, and the Pro Kart Challenge, the United States Pro Kart Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup. And OTK products are also front and center on the podium of club and regional races from coast to coast. To learn more about a specific product line, you can find the OTK USA dealer near you, whether it's Tony Kart, Cosmic, Esprit, Red Speed, or EOS. Visit www.otkusa.com. Specific chassis territories are still available, so kart shops interested in adding a winning component to their product lineups can contact OTK USA directly. Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. Meticulously engineered and manufactured in Japan, DID Genuine Parts are the world's #1 original parts supplier for Japanese and European motorcycle manufacturers. A rich racing tradition where results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this SDH pin technology, which leads to longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. Welcome back to episode 96 of our EKN Debrief podcast, the final component of our EKN Trackside Live coverage each weekend. Talking about the Superkarts USA Spring Nationals. We've rolled through the race reports, hit on class by class. David, time to jump into the wrap-up. What are your thoughts overall? You were there, I was not, so I'll let you kind of handle this. Let's just wrap things up overall, your final thoughts on the Spring Nationals at Utah Motorsports Campus.
Well, on a serious note, hopefully we'll have more professionalism moving forward. Sunday obviously was better. We didn't, Superkarts USA readjusted the way the pit in and pit out were marked off, making sure that mechanics and those with pit passes were not allowed along the scale line. Obviously, we had security a little bit more involved as well too throughout the day on Sunday. So we had a bit of professional. That's another thing I was mentioned to me during talks Saturday and Sunday. Not a lot of racetracks do have armed officers on site. One of the only racetracks I can think of, aside from, maybe Super Nationals, but actual racetracks is Newcastle Motorsports Park. That's really the only time we ever see an armed officer on site throughout the weekend. And I'm wondering if that's maybe something we need to institute moving forward to kind of help keep the chaos, toned down a little bit.
Well, there's another really easy way to do that. Hard, fast penalties. Year suspensions, 5-year bans, whatever. Just drop the hammer.
Yeah. And so that's it. I guess obviously in the coming days, we'll see what, if anything, is announced by Superkarts USA regarding this. But more so, it's what's going to happen outside of the Superkarts USA events. Because again, all of these competitors, all these teams race other events throughout the year, be it USBKS, be it Texas Sprint Racing Series, be it, the California Rock Championship event that we're going to do here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There's events across the country that a lot of these teams, a lot of these competitors, a lot of these tuners are going to be at once again. So
they'll be side by side next weekend, right? Like whatever weekend it is, they're going to be shoulder to shoulder, wheel to wheel for the rest of the year and years to come. Yeah.
So that's hopefully, again, more professionalism is what I hope I see moving forward, not only throughout the year, but in the future.
Yeah.
My next point, if we do go back to Utah, can we go back in early May or late April?
You didn't like the 90 plus temperatures, David?
Well, now that it's 95 here today and the humidity is so high, it wasn't bad in Utah.
Yeah, because there's no humidity, right?
It's that dry heat that everybody talks about. I mean, it was a scorcher. Don't get me wrong. So when you're out in the sun, it just it literally burns you. To where here, God, it's disgustingly gross. I feel like I'm in Florida right now with the humidity. So, but either way, I think it's better when we're in Utah, be it in May or maybe even somebody even said, why don't we go there in late April? I'm like, well it could still snow.
Yeah. The tradition, 100% it could still snow, but the traditional Spring Nats date has always been the first weekend of May, right? That's kind of when it's
my anniversary weekend. Yeah. I have no problem missing that. Right.
But yeah, it's when it normally is. We'll see if things shift back for 2023.
I wasn't obviously a lot of things were going on the weekend, so I was not able to corner Tom Kutcher about a lot of different topics I wanted to speak to him about, but there's obviously more important things to kind of worry about. So hopefully we'll be able to sit down with him at the Summer Nationals and get more insight if it hasn't been already decided by the time we head to what will be the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Series finale on July 28th through the 31st. as we return with the Summer Nationals at Newcastle, Indiana, for what I believe is going to be the 8th time that we've been there.
And I''ll be back.
You'll be back.
Yeah.
You will be announcing there. That'll be.
I hated missing that one. I really did. I missed my first ever pro tour in 13 years.
I will say it didn't feel the same. I will say that it felt odd. It felt weird. I felt like a USPKS weekend, to be honest, because you weren't there. That's typically how I've spent all my USPKS weekends. So
that's true. It was
odd.
I look forward to being back at Newcastle. That's going to be a great one again. Newcastle for the SCUSA Pro Tour Summer Nationals, July 28 to 31, the finale of this year's Pro Tour. Dave, let's look at the Constructors Championship. 7 different brands scoring race wins.
Yeah, leading the way was Cosmic and Parolin. Cosmic earning 2 victories with Ryan Norberg, and then again 2 victories with Mario Barrios in X30 Master. But Parolin was able to sweep the cadet division, I believe, once again. I think they've done this at a couple of events that we've seen on the 2022 calendar. So 2 wins by Jack Iliff in Mini Swift, and then 2 wins by Rocco Simoni in the Micro Swift division. Add in Tony Kart with 3 victories, CRG with 3 victories, 2 of them from the Master Shifter division, and then 1 with what was the other one? Oh, Junior with X30 Junior with Aiden Ingrata. Yes. EOS picking up 2 victories, and then Track Magic and Magic Kart USA were the 2 Pro Shifter chassis victories.
Indeed. So then again, 7 brands scoring wins in the Constructors Championship deal there for the Spring Nationals. Let's have a look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar presented today by CRG Nordam. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and they're primed and ready with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the country, reaching every corner of North America. Check out the new CRG KT5 for tag and shift racing, the Black Mirror for cadet competition, and the FS4 for Briggs. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email them at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. All right, David, we're right back at it. This coming weekend we'll have off, but then we're back at it again, June the 24th, 25th, 26th, the California Rock Championship, and the one-off event they'll have this year in Portland at Pat's Acres Racing Complex. We're pumped. I can't wait to get there. We're camping throughout the weekend, which would be great. But for primarily your first time ever at Pat's Acres, the most iconic racetracks, karting tracks in North America.
Yeah, super looking forward to getting the Pat's Acres. Obviously the Ager family I've known now for I guess couple decades now. Be it with Chris Ager, and then obviously all the Ager children that have worked and continue to work within the industry, and just to be able to go to one of the places that was a stomping ground for the old SCUSA Pro Moto Tour. And again, is probably one of the more established and historic karting facilities in the Pacific Northwest. Again, that's a region I have yet to travel to much. Once, I think twice, maybe for stars, and then a road race at Portland International Raceway. And aside from that, I haven't been to the Pacific Northwest very much at all.
Yeah, you're gonna enjoy it. You go back to the SCUSA Pro Moto Tour, like you had said, in the 1999, 2000, 2001. Also, back in the day, a major stop occasionally for the IKF Grand Nationals as well. I believe 1995 they had the Nationals there at Pat's Acres. It's a great track. You're gonna love it. It'll be a lot of fun. That's June 24, 25, 26. Our full EKN Trackside live coverage. I'll be there on the microphone. We'll do the live broadcast. A lot of stuff going on. We're planning a tent talk. You never know what's going to happen. We're camping out overnight, so there could be maybe some nightly debriefs too. With a couple of happy hour cocktails along with that. We'll see how it all plays out. I think it's just going to be a really fun weekend, David. Everybody heading up, kind of the one-off event for the California Rock Championship this year. They weren't able to get the support they needed for the race at Cal Speed. They decided to cancel Sonoma. So a one-off event here for all the West Coast rock drivers. I think it's going to be a great weekend. Yeah,
anytime you talk about, Andy Staisman, it's fun. and the atmosphere is certainly going to be fun throughout the weekend at Pat's Acres. You add in the Ager family and the Pat's Acres facility itself. I mean, that, we keep hearing stories about how much fun it is to be there alone. So you add in all these different mixes and combinations, and it's certainly going to be an exciting and fun weekend. And hopefully the weather cooperates. Hopefully we don't have to deal with floods.
No kidding. Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
But so we're just looking forward to a fun, exciting, competitive weekend. Again, tickets on the line for Rock Vegas for all the different categories. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see all the different competitors that do come and take part in it.
You'll get the July 4th weekend off. I'll actually be at the Road to Indy event at Mid-Ohio, at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Looking forward to that. But then the weekend after that, David, you'll be heading back to Wisconsin, just where I just left, actually, the track I just left at Road America. But you'll be there for the Briggs & Stratton Motorplex, the United States Pro Kart Series Badger State Grand Prix, set to go for July 8th to the 10th. You'll be there with full trackside live coverage. Xander Clements and the Kart Chaser crew will be there to cover it live. But again, full coverage with yourself, everything we do on race reporting, all the social media coverage, all those interviews, all the great video coming out of the scales for the winners. But back to Road America again for you for the USPKS series.
Yeah, excited to third straight year that United States Pro Kart Series will be there. Obviously, we're there in 2020 when we had to reshuffle the schedule around, and now I think it's going to be a regular stop on the USPKS program moving forward. And then obviously Seepkins. I mean, you can't go to Road America without Seepkins. I've already had a couple people come up to me, hey, I've never been to Seepkins. What's this all about? So I'm looking forward to
I love it.
To introducing some people to it again at a very iconic location to at least say you've been there once and get it off the bucket list.
And you'll see a Shifter Card Illustrated sticker there, a Formula Car Magazine sticker, a Speedway USA sticker, and an ekartingnews.com sticker, kind of a cross-section of the last 25 years of Howden Media Group. So we've been there and had some good times at Seepkins for sure, and definitely a stop, as David said, to make an iconic place that on any kind of big race weekend you could run into a Mario Andretti. You never know. They all end up getting to Seepkins sooner or later. Karting weekends, it'll be packed with karters, I am sure. Again, that wraps things up for this edition of the EKN Debrief, our 96th episode of the Debrief, our race report podcast. Again, thank you to the good folks at Acceleration Kart Racing for being our sponsor of the program. Of course, David Cole for being trackside at a Utah Motorsports campus and giving us a full report, all his insight from the event this past weekend. Again, lots more to come. We'll have an outlap for the California Rock Championship next week. We have a This Week in Karting coming up as well soon. We'll have a lot more content, more podcasts before the end of the first half of the season, first half of the year, capping off here at the end of June, and so much more to come, July, August, September, and all the way through to the Superkarts USA SuperNationals at the end of November. Looking forward to that for sure. Again, thanks for tuning in, folks. We do appreciate it. If you haven't downloaded the EKN Radio Network app, do so now to get all of our content when it first becomes available. But other than that, on behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.